Well, hello everyone. It's Sibyl Star, and I'm going to be doing a video today on the Venus retrograde cycle. I wanted to do it earlier, but I just couldn't get it to do it. But Venus just went retrograde, and there's a whole lot of her cycle left. So I thought it would be very helpful. All right. So anyway, let's just start. So Venus went retrograde on July 22nd. She'll be retrograde until September 3rd. She went retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo, and she will be out of the retrograde zone by October 7th. So anyway, and I'm sitting right in front of her symbol here. We've got Venus in Leo, and it's so much about the light. I really liked this background because I feel like Leo is ruled by the sun. It's so much about the light and our creative self-expression. But anyway, it's also about many other things. But to me, it's about the light and letting our light shine. But who is Venus? So Venus is known as the goddess of love, and she is the face of the divine feminine. The areas of life she's involved with are relationships, and she brings in love. I should just say that Venus is the goddess of love, and it's love in all forms, whether it's love with others or love of others or love of self, what we love. Okay. And she brings in self-love, self-worth. And she's also about beauty and creativity. She's one of the prime indicators of the creative process in the chart, as well as Leo. All right. And so what is Venus retrograde? Well, so a retrograde planet, and they all go retrograde except for the sun and the moon at some point. And so when a planet appears to go retrograde, it is an optical illusion. She appears to be going backwards, but she is really not. It's just a change in the speed of the orbit. And Venus is retrograde the least of all of the planets. She's retrograde for 6 weeks at a time, 40 days and 40 nights every 18 months. And so when Venus goes retrograde, she actually disappears from the night sky, like I said, for 40 days and 40 nights. But before her descent, she is an evening star, but when she returns, she is a morning star. And Venus as an evening star is a lover, and Venus as a morning star is a warrior. And she, like I said, and in Sumerian culture, in Nana, they believed that Venus was the celestial form of their great goddess Inanna, and some in later cultures called her Ishtar. And so the disappearance of Venus from the sky for 40 days and 40 nights was the basis of their myth of the descent of Inanna. And by the way, Inanna was both a lover and a warrior. And so she fit both bills of the Venus archetype for the Sumerians. Anyway, so the descent of Inanna was the descent of the goddess into the underworld. And what it represented was a journey of renewal and regeneration. And it's what it indicates for us is a reevaluation of certain areas of our life, as Venus is so much about what we value. And many cultures, including the Maya, they planned what they did according to the Venus cycle. As for them, Venus was believed to be the celestial form of their feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl. Okay, so in astrology, like I said, the planet Venus is associated with love, love of others, love of self, and the ultimate meaning of Venus is what or whom we value. And when a person has Venus retrograde in their own natal chart, it often indicates that something about them is not part of what the society or the culture values. So they must find that value within themselves, because it won't be mirrored back to them by the culture. I have Venus retrograde, and she is the ruler of my chart. And I'm going to say, that's been certainly my life journey, is to find my own value. Okay. But when Venus does go retrograde for all of us in her retrograde cycle, as she is now, it's about the reevaluation, like I said, of certain areas of our life. And of course, one is about our friendships, our intimate relationships, our emotionally bonded relationships with others. Asking, is this what I want? It may be a time to renegotiate the terms of the relationship. It might be a time to address unresolved issues in our relationships, bring focus to those areas of attention so that we can address them. A person wrote to me and thought I said that everyone would break up during Venus retrograde. I said, no, it's a time to really look at those areas of your life and maybe reevaluate what you really want in a relationship. And we may discover that we no longer resonate with certain friendships, with certain people. They've always been part of our life, and suddenly, we find we're just not in the same resonant field. But it's also, like I said, about reevaluating what has value in our lives and how do I value myself, and especially in relationship, am I valuing myself? But, our values change as time goes on. We're not the same person we were. And so this gives us a time to really, like I said, reevaluate, reassess what has meaning and importance to us in our lives. Venus also rules finances. So it could be a reevaluation of our finances. It is not a time to make decisions, for clarity may not come until after Venus goes direct. Now, Venus is in Leo, which is the sign ruled by the sun. It's that creative fire of spirit that lives within each of us. It's the solar consciousness. And Venus in Leo is telling us to follow our passion and what brings us joy. Venus in Leo is lighting the fire within each one of us, or at least that's the goal, that's the intention. If the fire has gone out in our relationships or in our passion and what brings us the joie de vivre, the joy of living, of what makes life worth living, is to kind of get back on track and to get clear with that. The sacred life force energy. And Venus is a force of nature. The planet represents the goddess Venus. And, Venus, the goddess, was a force of nature. She is that magnetic attraction and that sense of being in love, which can come in many ways, but certainly romantic love. And Leo is very romantic. But like I said, the Catholic Church could not even get rid of her like they did all of the other goddesses, because she represents that feeling of when we are in love and the mating bond. Okay. Leo is about the courtship phase of relationship when there is so much joy. Leo loves to be in love. So what if you are not in a romantic relationship? And so Venus and Leo asks us, what lights your fire? And if we are depending on others to light that fire for us, it may not happen. When your fire is lit, it is contagious and draws others to you. It is the magnetic energy of attraction. To be who you are and feed yourself this life force energy. I feel like it's also just deeply about the relationship with our own divinity, with the light within, really developing and fueling that fire. And it can come with art, music, spending time with those we love, our pets, being in service, being in nature, whatever it is that, like I would just say, makes you, uh, I hate to use the word happy, um, but that could be a word, makes you happy, brings you joy. It doesn't have to be work. It's just simply what someone would say, follow your excitement. What brings you excitement? What kind of brings that charge? Okay. It is the activation of our own divine light and the development of our relationship with our own inner divinity, your own I am presence. So I feel like Venus and Leo is saying to let your light shine and to know that your light can ignite the light of others, just like when a match is lit, how it's contagious. It's a contagious energy. And Venus in Leo is also the archetype of the queen or the woman who knows her worth. Now, as I've talked about before, Venus goes retrograde on July 2nd, excuse me, July 22nd, which is the feast of Mary Magdalene. So this is another meaning of this, is around sacred sexuality. You know, Mary Magdalene was called a whore and a prostitute and was denigrated for millennia. But now, as we reclaim our sexuality as sacred, she is re-emerging as a divine being. And I found this beautiful quote and I wanted to share it with you. And it says, "It all began in the beginning of creation of mankind, where sexuality was used as a divine tool for source to create and to use the most powerful force ever, love. Many priestesses had the gift of embodying this pure energy and used this to open up a channel of light for all mankind. This is how they got sacred information and how they used this wisdom to pass it on to others. It was their divine mission to use their bodies as a vessel for sacred information to come through, to create from a power of love. Women were and still are the creators of life. It was such a precious gift to be born as a woman because it meant they could embody the power of love and to pass it on through their bodies. Women are a pure channel of source creation." So I feel like that is super important. And also some healing can come from this to release body shame and resistance to fully embracing our womanhood and feminine power, to heal patriarchal wounds, to open to the gifts of sacred sexuality, and to experience wholeness and fully express all aspects of divine feminine and masculine through the sacred marriage. Okay. All right. And there's several things that make this super important. They're super powerful, this Venus retrograde. And so another point is she goes retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo, which is conjunct the fixed star Alphard in the constellation of Hydra. And Hydra is the water serpent, and it represents the Kundalini or vital life force that runs through our body and brings enlightenment as it rises up our spine. It is the power of the divine feminine. It's an embodied spirituality, and Uranus is traveling in Taurus, and Uranus rules energy channels in our bodies, and Taurus is very connected to our bodies. It's a very powerful potential during this time. Tantric practices can help move this energy, whether we use it and work with it with a partner, or we can create a relationship with our own inner divinity by doing tantric practices. They're both absolutely in the field as possibilities because it is about lighting our fire, this creative force that is used to create children of the body or children of the mind, or creative projects. It can be used either way. It is activating the divine feminine creatrix that rises out of the cosmic womb, the divine fire of creation, and remembering that we are the creators of our own reality. If we're going to create a whole new world, this creatrix aspect of our beingness, I feel, is being activated for that purpose. All right. Another super important thing is Venus retrograde is in a yod, an aspect called a yod, or a finger of fate, or a finger of God. And I'm going to show it to you. I have a chart here that shows it pretty well. Okay. All right. So what this is, you can see it pretty well here. And so a yod is, there's two planets that are sextile each other. And here we've got Neptune, which is 60 degrees or sextile to Pluto. And each of them are 150 degrees, or what's called a quincunx or inconjunct, to Venus here at 28 degrees of Leo. This is what is called a yod, this aspect. You'll have to have 2 points that are 60 degrees apart, and then those 2 points are each 150 degrees or an inconjunct or quincunx to a third planet. And Venus is called the apex, and the apex is really the most important point. Okay, and when the apex is activated, the yod is activated. All right. So what does this actually mean? Okay. So a yod works like a paradox to me. Actually, in conjunction, quincunxes act like a paradox. And I feel like the sextile is an opportunity to understand it and resolve it better. Okay. And so paradoxes are like ideas, statement, or something that may appear to contradict each other and yet are true. And that is actually the nature of this universe. The universe is a paradox. For something to be right, something else does not have to be wrong. They can contradict each other and both be true. Okay. And so I feel like when a yod in our own personal chart, if we have one, it would be the integration of these paradoxical parts of ourselves. And then it creates an opportunity in some way. Okay. And the way forward is the apex. And so I feel like what this is saying is, Venus is so much about love and beauty, and to recognize the beauty of this world, to allow yourself to enjoy it, to absorb it into your being, the beauty way. Beauty and love are all around us, and that we are the creators of our own reality. And we can choose to respond from a place of love and to align with that beauty. But the paradox is that we must also acknowledge the pain and the suffering and the challenges. And there is a lot of pain and suffering right now, and many people's lives are very challenged. And so how do we coexist in this? How do they coexist in the same reality with each other and within each of us? That is the paradox. Okay. To keep our hearts open to the suffering and the beauty. And of course, it is the power of the divine feminine. It activates the Shakti within, which brings enlightenment, which then also allows more of our higher self to emerge. Okay. All right. So the cycle of Venus, like I said, Venus went retrograde. She went to the retrograde zone on June 19th. She actually went retrograde on July 22nd. She goes direct on September 3rd, and she's out of the retrograde zone by October 7th. So it's a long event. And so this Venus here's some of the aspects she makes. She is trine the North Node in Aries. And of course, the North Node is the way forward. And in Aries is about life force and new beginnings. And she's in this trine to the North Node the last week of July, the first week of August, and then again after she goes direct, the last week of September through the first week of October. All right, she's square Uranus on July 2nd, it's already passed. August 8th, the Lion's Gate, and September 29th, once she goes direct, and that's at 22 degrees of Leo and Taurus. And so a Venus-Uranus square can mean freedom from conventional standards of love and beauty. It frees us from what the expectations are of love and beauty. You might find you want more freedom and excitement in your relationships, which can create instability, though. And you might no longer fit into expectations of others in this process of creative self-discovery, as you discover deeper levels of who you are and what you want in a relationship or a friendship. You may discover your own value by being true to yourself. It can be disruptive to relationships if you are compromising who you are. That is one of the shadows of Leo, is the compromising who you are to receive love. They say Leo plays to the crowd. Give people what they want, not who they are. That's why so many rules acting. And so where are you acting in your life? Uranus is just going to shake that down. Okay. You may be pushed out of your comfort zone in the areas of relationship, money, or work if it is not feeding that flame within. Okay. All right. Venus is also conjunct Black Moon Lilith at the same time. And, Black Moon Lilith in Leo takes on dramatic flair, and the creative life force is very strong with Black Moon Lilith. Black moon Lilith in Leo is extremely magnetic and generally has a fascination for larger than life situations, which at times can be their downfall. Yes, it can indicate drama. That's another shadow of Leo. And Leo, Black Moon Lilith does bring up the shadow, whatever sign it's transiting, as well as the power. And so there could be some drama, because one of the other shadows of Leo is a desire for attention. And if one is not getting enough attention, or if life isn't big enough, can create a drama to make it big enough. Okay. But perhaps the biggest lesson for Lilith in this sign is that you can't love others fully unless you love yourself first. That's really what it's about. And like I said, it's so much. Lilith in Leo, the key, and in partnership, the key to living and partnering with others is self-love, and learning the greatest happiness comes from within, as opposed to looking for it through others. That's what it's really about, is to light that fire within. And you can light it together, with someone, but it's like depending on someone to light it for you, it may not happen. It's really about finding that relationship with your own inner divinity. And so we have Leo, we have Venus in Leo retrograde conjunct the sun on August 13th, which is so much about letting your light shine, the beauty way, self-love and acceptance, all of the things that we are talking about, that relationship with your own inner divinity. All right. She's squared Jupiter at 15 degrees of Leo Taurus on August 21st and September 17th. And Jupiter brings blessings and opportunities, but with a square, it may not seem that way at first. But in a Jupiter time, it's time to say yes to doors that open, even if you don't know how you're going to do it. That the path may unfold. But Jupiter also brings endings, that closes doors that no longer have life force. And it could be a relationship that no longer feeds you, but is comfortable and secure. And so if that happens, let it go and move on. Know that somehow it is in your highest good, even if you can't see it at the time. Venus brings love, but it may be love of self, how we value ourselves and are no longer willing to not be valued by others. And you also might have that prayer that says, thank you, dear Goddess, for not giving me what I thought I wanted. I've had that prayer many times. Okay. All right. And when Venus goes direct on September 3rd, from direct until the time she moves out of the retrograde zone, you may get increased clarity on the message from Venus. And it's all about that fire within, that passion, that life force energy, and your creativity. Now I'm going to close with the Sabian symbol because it's so powerful. The Sabian symbol for this Venus retrograde is a mermaid has climbed to the rocky shore of a bleak coast. She awaits the prince who will bring her immortality. So we have here a woman who has previously merely existed in the waters and is now ready to emerge into a more conscious existence. And I believe the prince that is bringing the immortality is our own I am presence, our own inner divinity. It is the power of the divine feminine that activates the Shakti within, which brings enlightenment, allows more of our higher self to emerge, the activation of our light bodies. And and I have heard the only way to heal our world is to allow more of our higher selves to emerge. There's no other way. It is a different level of consciousness. And I recently heard this as well, and I thought it was just really beautiful. That one light worker can raise the vibration of thousands of others. That is how we change the world. As we awaken and remember that we are embodied light, our I am presences, that our light can activate the awakening process in others, just like when we light one match that is lit can light all of the other matches. It can be a chain reaction. And I love this beautiful poem from Hafiz that I saw. It says, I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy to remember that I have been called to dance the sacred dance of life. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares, free my soul, that we might dance and that our dancing might be contagious. Venus retrograde is reminding us to find the beauty and joy in life, even in the midst of challenges and suffering. For as we do, it allows our higher selves, our I am presences, our true selves to emerge, and that our light is contagious and it can light up the world. All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and sending you all many blessings, and namaste. Blessings to all.